Councilman Henry?
Yes, here.
Councilman Noah? Here. Councilman Monty?
Here.
Councilman Bidell?
Here.
Councilman Jordan? And Councilman Bartolome?
Here.
In compliance with New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the PL 1975, I hereby declare that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided, specifying that this meeting will be held on this date, March 2nd, 2015, in the municipal building, 55 River Road, Edgewater, New Jersey, at 7 p.m. This notice was published in the Record and Jersey Journal, posted on the bulletin board in the lobby of the Borough Hall, and posted on the borough's website. We will stand for a salute to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I always want to break out this song. Play ball.
This time we open the meeting up to the public, and if the public wants to speak. Mary?
Mary Hogan, 606 Underwood Avenue. I have one issue that we have at the construction site at 594 Underwood Avenue, which is the old Higgins property. Gotta identify that. The one building's done, the second one is being worked on. There are now just two pieces of fencing that's left, all the others have disappeared. And the two pieces of fencing that are there are being tied up to the wires that are stretched above them. I don't know if they're cable lines or whatever. Anyway, they have strings tied to that, and that's holding it up. Also, in that general area, it seems to be that.
Sorry, I was just asking if it was to the left from where you are.
Oh, it's south. It's,
The two new ones.
yeah, the two new ones. The one is done, the other's, this is the one on the further south. What's happening is, especially in the new construction buildings, the newer buildings, they're getting this like wasteland when we're clearing snow, so that they clear their driveways, but the sidewalk that's between the two, or between them and the properties on either side, don't get cleaned, so that people are like having to, walk out into the street, and especially up there where that's the narrowest part of Undercliff, it becomes a problem. We also have an issue with some of the newer houses. It was Kennedy's old house, I don't know the number, it's just north of me. They're leaving their garbage cans, like they put all their recyclings out on Monday, and then it stays there, and because of the snow, they have it on the sidewalk. And the kids happen to wait right in front of that driveway for the buses. So they either have to climb over the snow and ice and around the garbage cans, or they have to go out to the street to get in front of their driveway to wait. So it might be a general issue around town, I'm not sure, but in our particular area, it's an issue that I wish someone would address and maybe advise these people that, they're new. I know that people have just moved out and people have moved in, but they have, and again, that area was not clean between that house and the next house down. And it just makes it very difficult for walking, especially when the kids walk not only to there, but they walk up to North Street, catch the bus for the high school and the middle school. So you got people either crossing the street without a crossing guard, and they don't have to because the sidewalk actually runs right to North Street with no streets in between. But they have to cross over because they can't walk on the sidewalk because they have to be clean. In terms of the agenda, it was not up this weekend. I only got it up this morning. I know that you had changed your website. The website thing had been.
Didn't work on it.
Yeah, so it was not up, so I didn't get it till this morning. And now I see things have been added since it was up this morning, which was not on the website. The Borough Administrator's information and your request, Mayor. This puts the public at a disadvantage in that we have no idea what you're talking about until we finally get a copy of the agenda 5 minutes before the meeting, and we're the first to speak. So we have no idea what you're discussing, and then there's certainly been a lack of discussion in terms of in the public section of the meetings, so that we have to like read things in 45 seconds and then try to comment on it before you vote on it. And that's really not serving the public, which I think this body is supposed to be doing, serving the public. I had mentioned it when Barbara was here, and I don't know if you're aware of it, Anne Marie. There was a decision by the Bergen County that if you put this up on the website, if you put it up on the internet, you have to put the attachments with it. So you have to attach the resolutions. You have to attach to the resolutions like you're talking about geese management. I presume it's a contract with somebody that's gonna do geese management, and you have to put the copy of the contract up so that the public can see that. That if you're gonna put it on your website, you have to put the attachments with it. So this was a decision that was in December of last year, so it's a relatively recent decision. I know Barbara was aware of it. So if you would please make sure that that's done in the
Okay.
future. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to be heard? Valerie?
Valerie Bardina, 16 Hudson Terrace, Edgewater. I'm sure you are aware of this, but I just bought a few copies of the Bergen Record had an article about the AstroTurf and how it does raise some concerns. There's both points of view in the article. Actually, I have more copies over here. But what's concerning is the EPA and a few other major sources that do essentially provide testing for this now have statements on there, making sure that the public is aware that not enough, basically, testing has been done. I think, in fact, there's only 4 tests since 2005 that have been done concerning the toxicity of AstroTurf. Just in a nutshell, it's made from tires. And several towns, and it doesn't discuss this just in this article, but several towns are taking up, ripping the fields up because of parents' concerns about contamination and breathing problems, the problem of in the summer that it gets superheated. Considering that we're doing this now because we have a park that is highly contaminated. In fact, the contamination was off the charts when it was tested after it was refilled with toxic waste from waterside construction. And it had to be actually diluted a little to get a reading off the charts. So I would be concerned about putting something that has question marks now on a field where our children are playing. That's just me. The other question I had was when you took a vote on January 28th approving the AstroTurf, it said on the 4th line down from the resolution, whereas the bids were reviewed by Daniel Kaufman of Neglia Engineering. My question is, January 1st, we hired a new engineering firm, so why would Neglia be doing the study of that? Was that a typo, or were they still on the payroll? I do believe that we hired, what is it, CEM, or our engineering? I'm sorry?
CME.
CME, we hired CME, so why was Daniel Kaufman? Because the bids were open in 2015, not 2014, so why would Mr. Kaufman continue to act as our engineer? I don't understand that, and I hope I'll get an answer, because I don't seem to be getting any answers. My other question is regarding the contamination found in the Edgewater Cemetery. A few months ago, this council, it might have been in December or November, the council discussed having the DPW come in, and I think the Historic Committee made a presentation or discussed it. Linda Farrell from the Historic Committee discussed what was going on with the field as far as, I guess, stones being knocked over and beautification. And there was a discussion that when I raised the concern about the contamination, I was told, no, you really weren't talking about that. You were talking about, beautifying it. So is there still a plan for the DPW to enter the Edgewater Cemetery? And if not, who will be? And when will the lab reports be made available to the public? That's my other question. I'd like this council to give me an answer. My other question, if you want to write this down, last meeting, I asked about, I made a statement regarding the St. Moritz. You voted to move the affordable housing off of the St. Moritz to an area on Undercliff Avenue. When was that discussion with this mayor and council made in public? Because I don't recall hearing it, and it's quite possible I wasn't at the meeting, but I'd like to know when that was discussed in public. Our borough attorney said we have the right to Oprah, and I totally agree. But you can't Oprah information when you don't know whether it exists and what time frame. So, I really think that you guys are treading on the line of violating the sunshine law here, because it's great you did 15-minute meetings, but the public has a right to know. You're obligated to disclose this stuff. You can't have backroom meetings. And if you all came out here without any discussion and voted yes, that means there was a discussion that had to take place. When did that discussion take place? Was it behind closed doors? And if it was done in meetings, I would like to know the date, because I'm going to Oprah it. Thank you. Have a great night.
Anyone else from the public like to speak?
Dennis Gallagher, 18 Arlington Terrace. I was here, I think, for that meeting, brought up the issue that Dives, Mr. Dives, has a junkyard, or I don't know how you characterize it, but a very large piece of property that has been there for quite a long time. And it's hard to believe that anybody in this town would be unaware of its existence. And yet, nothing's happening with it. I brought it up last week. Could you tell me what you're doing about it? Anybody on top of it?
This is time for you to speak. When you're done, we'll give you some answers.
Thank you. It's hard to believe that what goes on here goes on year after year, and nothing comes of it. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wish to be heard? Okay, we'll close the meeting to the public. What's that?
I can
Yeah, go ahead.
reference some of them, maybe some help with some of the people. The issue on a construction site, that's an enforcement issue, which I guess you refer to the construction official or the appropriate body. It's not something that we would do. The AstroTurf, that's a value judgment that the council has made its decision on. Your question about Mr. Kaufman, I may be missaying his name, the former engineer from Neglia. It's my understanding in having conferences with our newer engineers and the old engineers that since Neglia did the specifications, that they had agreed that they would have Mr. Kaufman or Neglia look over the bids and the specs, and that it would then be reviewed by CME. So the first basic person that looked at them, and that's what the resolution refers to, was Kaufman. And I think that's happened on a couple of items, am I correct?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Let me just go through my notes. The Edgewater Cemetery is closed, correct? And there's no one going on it at this point in time. That's the subject of the litigation that we have, and that is being reviewed through the litigation. The COA that you bring up, let me just try to explain something, and if you know this already, I'm sorry, but you have a borough administrator here, so many items go to him first. And he may discuss them with the mayor individually, he may discuss them with one councilman, two councilmen. And as long as he doesn't have a majority of council people together discussing this, those are not Oprah things. Otherwise, every single business that the town does every single day would be Oprah. And it's not a violation of the Sunshine Act. That's the way businesses operate. He essentially is the chief operating officer, so he gets almost all the mail and does discussions with me. He may call me up on a subject, or the mayor, or someone else. Also, when you talk about whether or not the council discussed the resolution on COA, my understanding, I wasn't here then, my understanding was a year ago that was a resolution passed on that COA, and it was discussed publicly and openly. That's my understanding.
Not this resolution.
This resolution
Totally different.
may not have been discussed publicly, but I just gave
It's
you
not
the
on the same
reason. It may have
site.
come to
No,
Mr.
it's not on the
France.
same site.
Mr. France may discuss it individually with council people, and with the
They
borough
don't make
attorney,
decisions
and with
that
the
way.
planner, and maybe with COA. But those are not things that are the type of things that come to a meeting. Which brings me to the one point that somebody raised, I think it was Mary, which I think is an excellent point, and that is attaching things to the work session, so you have resolutions. The problem with that is, and I've discussed this with Mr. France, we have a work session here on March 2nd. The meeting is not till March 18th. What this work session should be doing, in my opinion, is discussing these things. I don't know how Anne Marie is able to really do resolutions at this point in time, because these should be items for discussion, and the resolutions get prepared from that, like anything else. You sit down and say, we want to have a contract with Mary Hogan to watch everything that goes on here. Well, somebody's got to draw the contract. You can talk about it, you can have a resolution to have a contract, but when we have a resolution, we don't have contracts yet. They have to be reviewed by Mr. Franz, myself, and then the mayor and council.
Just like
So those things are almost impossible. What you're asking for is not realistic, and I don't think it's appropriate. Now, when you go to the public meeting, where there's going to be action taken, there the resolutions are available because we prepared them in order to have the council physically work with them. But even then, there are not contracts yet. In fact, one of the questions I have, we're going to discuss tonight, is some things where resolutions have been passed, and I need more information on contracts. So that's the situation there. I hope that was of some help.
Okay. So do you want to discuss the resolutions that we have here going forward? Mike, we have 2015-070.
Well, I just want,
072.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to go on record saying that I believe that
Go ahead.
if we have anything that's prepared and ready to go, and we're going to take action on 2 weeks later, that at the work session, we should list it, we should post it on the website, and we should talk about it. There's going to be things in the next 2 weeks, administrative things, daily operational things that will come up that Anne Marie and Greg will have to prepare. We all know that. The ladies and gentlemen know that. We're on this body, and that's just the way that the business of the town is run. But if it's big enough to be out, to be up here 2 weeks before, on, at least for one, I'm speaking for myself, says it should be on the agenda and should be posted, it should be discussed. With regard to specific resolutions, these are all boilerplate, just operational items, and there's nothing that I need to talk about. I just would add one more thing with regard to the cemetery, since I'm kind of the point man with the Historical Society. Unfortunately, there's a significant amount of debris that's fallen on the opposite side, the north side of the cemetery from the Avalon fire. So as council has said, the cemetery is closed, probably will be for a while. It's going to have to be a complete review of what's going on the left, what's going on the right, and the things that need to be completed eventually by the DPW in the middle, fixing stones and whatnot. So we got a lot of work to do in the cemetery, and it's just been compounded by the fire, and it's unfortunate. So that's all I have.
Don't you have anything? Councilman Bartolomeo, Councilman Monti? Councilman Waller?
Just, I'm sorry, that I agree with Mike's point that sometimes certain things, there's the sense of urgency, and if they need to be heard at one of these meetings, they're just unavoidable, otherwise too much time will pass in between.
Councilman Vidal?
No comments.
Okay. Other matters for discussion. We put together a committee for the Hess property. We haven't met officially yet. I'm waiting for a date, possibly next week. So I think it's Monday, we'll be tentatively setting up a meeting to discuss what we want to do there. Anybody have any comments about that?
Just that it needs to be looked at
Yeah.
extremely carefully.
Okay.
I mean, this
Well,
is
that's why we put
this
this all
biggest
together.
piece of property
Yeah.
sitting there in the middle of town, and we have to, which we will.
Okay.
I would add to Councilman Bartolomeo that this is the second, we've had a go-around with them on this. They presented to us
Mhm.
already. I think it's before you came on, Mayor, but it's a small city, and I was not anywhere near impressed or willing to consider it as much as I can. It's too big.
I just assumed that they're probably, I heard that, and I haven't seen any specific plans, but I guess at the first meeting, we'll sit down with them, and then we'll come to the council and the planning board and decide what our opinions are on that. I kind of feel the same way you do, if that's what they're really coming up with. You know, the schools have a little bit of a burden on them right now. I mean, there's a big burden on them. We have a lot of things on our plate. We don't need a new city there, so I'm all for that. Is there anything else we need to discuss about board members and such?
Well, we are going to put, we have two people now that we're going to present at the meeting for the mayor's, the library board.
Right.
And I believe there's one outstanding left, and there's a couple on some other boards that we're going to try to come up with some folks before the next meeting. You know, the library board was advertised, and we got some good people that came forward and were willing to join, so maybe we should consider up some of these other boards as well.
Okay.
Although typically they don't respond to the other than the library, but
Right.
it's worth a shot.
Okay.
It was a good idea putting it out on the website. I
Right.
think people looked at it, and that's where we got some of these candidates. So, I mean, why not do it for the other departments that we need to?
Right.
And it was a good vehicle, no
I think
question.
that's a good idea, Tony, because we did get some good people to
No
come in
question.
and talk to. It was a good process, I think, with that library board, so I think that's a good idea.
Oh, I'm putting mine in for the.
Okay, Greg, from the borough administrator, what do you have from you?
First aid squad building and Mills and Schnoring are connected. Mills and Schnoring is the architect who's been working on the design of the ground floor of the historic Borough Hall with the concept of placing the first aid squad at that location. I've been in conversation with the borough attorney in regard to perfecting that contract with the architect if we should move forward. The first aid squad members reviewed the floor plan. They're making some recommended changes that I've had conversations with both the first aid squad members along with the architect. So we'll come to a compromise on those. The community development block grant item, we are working on two block grants from 2014 and 2015 that we'd like to combine approximately $175,000 in grant monies for curb, sidewalks, and street paving. Right now, because of the change in the census information, we just have to confirm the locations where this work would fit into the new census tract. Every 10 years when they update the census, they come up with areas that the community development grants can be applied to. So we may have to, in a future meeting, you may see an ordinance to fund that particular block grant, so we can move on that. Community development wants to draw down these funds by June. We had a meeting today with CME, the new engineer, and Neglia, the former engineer, just to work on some ideas as to which areas of town we should continue the program in. We've done a substantial amount of work on Undercliff Avenue, so CME's ready to pick that up and have a proposal and bid specs prepared for a June award date. So I may propose a funding ordinance within the next meeting or the meeting after that, but I'll keep you aware of what's going on. Lime Energy, that's another program that we actually participated in 2 years ago. We received energy efficient lighting at the Public Works Yard, Historic Borough Hall, and the Community Center, along with a new HVAC unit at the Community Center. 2 units are on their way out. They're probably 15+ years old. So Tom from DPW is concerned about their future use. So what we may do is fill out this grant application to award the replacement of 2 units at the community center. The ideal program with this is that we don't have to go out to bid or fund the project. So the project gets funded through Public Service, the Board of Public Utilities, and Lime Energy. So they actually select the contractor. We had the unit replaced 2 years ago. It was a fantastic program. The company came in, they took the old HVAC unit, replaced the new one, and so it went well. So the program is a very good one. So we're hoping to get about $75,000 in regards to that. And that's all I have there.
Great question.
Yes.
Is Millennium driving that grant?
Yes, Bernadette McPherson actually arranged for the meeting between the gentleman from Lyme and myself, which we met last week.
So is it safe to say the activities are picking up, Millennium?
Yeah, Mr. Vidal can comment on that.
Yeah, she was in Borough Hall today, we had a meeting. We discussed looking at several different things. One of them is some of the infrastructure work that we need to do with regards to the outfalls for the stormwater drains. She's going to help us out on that. We are requesting.
Off of the big ones we've been dealing with?
Right. She's also going to try to see if she can get us some money for some of the repairs necessary to the firehouse, for the fire escape and the kitchen bed.
Yep. And then
in addition
the
to-
exhaust system
And the
too,
exhaust system in
at the fire headquarters.
fire headquarters. We also discussed aggressively going after money for the police department. Originally, the chief was looking to see if he can get some kind of funding for the body cams, but the body cams, as of now, there is grant money for body cams, but it's kind of linked to cities that have some kind of association with the university, because they're actually trying to conduct a study of some sort that'll help, determine how the logistics are all gonna play out as far as storage space is concerned and all that kind of stuff. They're really just, this is kind of like in the beta stage of the body cam. So there isn't money for any other, for body cams for any normal.
And in fact, when he requested it last year, we had said we would wait until New York City's beta test was done, the results were in before we would consider it, right?
Right, we did.
But I mean, if the money comes up to me, I'm sure.
So, and she doesn't expect any of that to be around, so she's still pushing to see if she can get us some some money for that. We also discussed, what was the other one, Greg?
She's got an actual active application that she worked on with the fire department for training and membership retention.
That's right.
So that's almost completed, so she worked on that.
And I believe that that was it for the time being. Did I miss anything?
That's a lot compared to last year. And her as our new account rep is good, or whatever you want to call her.
Yes.
Taking personally
Yes.
care of us is helping a lot.
And she also kind of made us aware of